So, ladies and gentlemen, not everyone is cheering after Zoran Mamdani announced the details of his 5 government-supported grocery stores in New York City. Bodega owners, along with some local residents, are already speaking out against the plan because they believe it will make things even worse for the small businesses and taxpayers. Now, Mamdani says these stores are going to make certain groceries 30% cheaper. That's the whole plan. Have a core basket of goods they're offering 30% less than market price. And listen, cheaper food sounds great. Everybody wants to pay less for meat, produce, milk, eggs, other things. Who doesn't want to save a buck? But the government cannot wave a magic wand and make the real cost of food disappear, ladies and gentlemen. That's not how it works. Farmers still have to grow it. Trucks still have to deliver it. Workers still have to stock the shelves. And the stores still have to pay for electricity, security, repairs, theft, and spoiled products. Yeah, customers pay less at the register. Somebody else has to cover the difference. And ladies and gentlemen, that somebody is the taxpayer. And so as always, smash that thumbs up button if you do enjoy the content. For more, subscribe to the channel. Shout out to everybody who watches to the very end. I appreciate every single one of you. And so let's go ahead and start right here.
Mayor Mamdani takes another step in his affordability agenda, announcing plans to have his city-run supermarkets undercut the prices charged at regular food stores by 1/3 on a core basket of everyday groceries.
Political reporter Marcia Kramer joining us in studio now with more on this plan. Marcia.
Justin Allen, Mayor Mamdani was fixated on the number 30 today. It's Breonna Stewart's number on the Liberty, was the number Willie Randolph wore as a Yankee, and it was the cost of a subway token in 1970. Who knew? But now he says it's the size of the price drop, 30% New Yorkers will get when they shop at one of the new government-run supermarkets that the mayor wants to open.
A collection of essential staples that will be predictably 30% cheaper at all 5 of our city-run grocery stores. This core set of goods will include all fresh produce, meat, and seafood, along with 20 other essential items like cheese, milk, and bread.
Another picture-perfect photo op for the city's social media mayor as he stood in front of luscious-looking fruits and vegetables to promise New Yorkers that if you shop at his government-run grocery stores, you'll get a 30% discount from the prices at other supermarkets and bodegas.
Once a month, our 5 city-run grocery stores will set prices for this core set of goods at 30% below typical retail prices. No exceptions, no gimmicks. The savings will last for the entire month.
The mayor has promised to open 5 government supermarkets, 1 in each borough, by the end of his term in 2029. So far, he's located 2. The first will open at Hunts Point in the Bronx at the end of next year. He says the savings are projected to cut New Yorkers' grocery bills by 15%, about $90 a month or about $1,000 a year. Fernando Mateo, co-founder of United Bodegas of America, says the mayor's plan will hurt the mom-and-pop establishments that he represents.
We know what we're doing. You don't. You're 33 years old. You've never owned a business. You've never run a city. You've never run a business.
Will it hurt bodegas?
It will hurt everybody, not just bodegas. It will hurt communities.
The mayor insists bodegas won't be hurt because his stores won't have deli counters or sell hot food, nor would they sell cigarettes or lottery tickets.
And we know that a lot of what drives revenue for these bodegas, grocery stores, those are things that make it possible for them to continue to operate. Those are not things we have any interest in competing for.
Now, the city is also seeking a qualified grocer to operate the stores, someone who can develop a cost-effective food supply chain and a New York City Groceries private label.
All I can say is, ladies and gentlemen, get your popcorn ready because this one is not going to go well. I don't think so, to say the least. And unfortunately, it's for a lot of reasons. The main one being that Mamdani needs everything to go right. I mean, they're telling you about how consumers are going to save $90 a month, $1,000 per year. My question is, how much is it going to cost the taxpayer? How much? And we're going to actually get into that in a moment. But unfortunately, Mamdani's big dilemma with this is going to be that he needs everything to go correct. If one thing inside the chain goes wrong, there's a problem. For example, and this happens, this is not abnormal. The cost of a particular fruit, vegetable, produce, that can increase. It's no longer in season, it's a shortage, whatever the case may be. Because of that, that price can increase for the vendor. Now, if that price increases for the vendor, guess what that also means? That now means that these grocery stores have to pay more for the same product. And so strawberries in the summertime can cost one price, but then strawberries in the wintertime can end up costing a completely different price, can cost more. And so that becomes a problem when you're talking about subsidized groceries, because subsidies just means AKA taxpayer dollars. But we're going to get into more of that in a moment. But first, let's take a look at this, because you had the bodega owners as well as residents highly upset, and they're speaking out. First, listen to the bodega owners. Take a listen to this.
We're concerned that they're getting information from these bodega owners to use it against them. And we're asking these rogue organizations not to comment, not to give them information. They don't need to answer any questions. They don't have to be afraid. You know, usually when a small business owner sees a city official walking into their bodega, they feel they're in trouble. What did they do wrong? You know, am I going to get a summons? Am I going to get a fine? So they feel pressured to answer questions like, how many eggs do you sell? How much do you sell them for? How many containers of milk do you sell? How much do you sell them for? You know, how much profits are you making? These kind of questions are proprietary to that business. That's how they make a living. You know, we don't want the city taking that information and then using it to build competition against them, right? And the same thing, we have the president of the National Supermarkets Association with us as well, and you know, he has the same concerns as we do. So we're asking our 40,000 members, bodegas and delis around the 5 boroughs not to answer any questions, not to give up information. They do not need to be afraid. They could call United Bodegas of America if they feel intimidated or afraid, and we will deal with the situation. But at this point, we don't want, you know, for any more intimidation to go on. We like for the city to sit down with us, to negotiate with us. We can save taxpayers $100 million a year, which is what his 5 supermarkets are going to cost taxpayers. Okay, supermarkets can have affordable aisles. Okay, for essential items that the city wants to see lowered, like eggs, milk, bread, and many other items, and bodegas can do the same. You know, we can work together and provide, you know, hundreds and thousands of locations where people could go into that they're used to going into. You don't have to create animosity. You don't have to create a government-owned entity that's going to compete with the hardworking people, and it's not level playing field because the city pays no taxes. The city's probably not gonna pay any rent. You know, they're self-insured. You know, so it's all of these things combined that we are trying to say. Let people from the neighborhoods walk into the local neighborhood stores and get what they want if the city's willing to subsidize them. And they should, because that's what they're trying to do. But with 4 or 5 locations, it makes no sense.
Yeah, and so the bodega owners are highly upset, ladies and gentlemen, and they're to the point now because they see that their business is being undercut. You have government officials coming in and asking them about proprietary information, their pricing, how much profit they make, things that are basically the nuts and bolts of their business that allow them to be able to run. And the government's coming in and knocking on their door and saying, hey, tell us this information because we want to undercut you. But first we need to know exactly, you know, how much, you're running your business and all the ins and outs. Yeah, so the bodega owners don't want to be in competition with the government because they realize that they can't compete with the government. It's an unfair advantage that they have. And so if you were listening, the bodega owners' solution, I mean, it's not really better. I see where they're coming from, but it's not really that much better. They're basically saying instead of competing with us, let's be partners. You were going to spend all those hundreds of billions of dollars on building grocery stores and subsidizing food for New Yorkers. Why not just give us the money? Then we could mark down our prices and then everybody's happy. Either way, it's on the taxpayer dime. So none of this makes any sense. It basically becomes SNAP 2.0 because it's not like they're checking the IDs, the income of individuals walking into these stores like with SNAP. I mean, they at least they're checking your income, right? But anybody can shop at these government stores. And so you don't have to be in poverty, nonetheless, this is where we're at right now. And so you even have, let's get into this part right here, residents now who are speaking up and speaking out. And so let me go ahead and just jump into this right here. It says Mamdani's plans 30% discounts at city-owned groceries, but it comes with a basket full of questions. And I'm just going to go ahead and go over a few of the quotes from several of the people that the Post had interviewed about this whole situation. And so the first individual is a 53-year-old woman, lifelong Harlem resident. She says, F that, we're all paying for that. So all the ish we buy at the bodegas and these little local stores, iced coffee, bags of ice, fruit drinks, that's never going to be cheaper than at the supermarket. He's wasting our effing time and money, she said again. Here's another quote from another woman. She says, that's stupid, said 55-year-old city worker Lelina, a West Harlem resident. You get lower prices when you just shop around, she believes. You can go to Costco's or BJ's, you know? You can buy in bulk and beat 30%. She said the scheme is also vague about what items would actually be available at the cheaper rate. Goes on to say what kind of bread. Lelina added, I'm not letting them choose what kind of bread I want. I'm not taking anything other than what I want. I won't eat mayonnaise unless it's Hellman's. But listen to this part, ladies and gentlemen. This one comes from a Cuban immigrant. Juan Carlos Santiago from the neighborhood said, the gambit sounds suspiciously similar to conditions on the communist island he fled. Cost less sounds very good, Santiago said. They did this where I come from. I grew up with this. In the end, it all costs more. You get less. Thank God you can go to another store. Thank God. Yeah, so there you have that. Not everyone, not all the New Yorkers are on board and feeling this whole idea of these government-run grocery stores. That's been clear, as we just kind of heard right there. And so now let's jump into this next part, because you have those on the left. They're trying to make sense of this whole thing with logic that it's really not adding up. And so let's take a listen to this.
Today, I am proud to announce a collection of essential staples that will be predictably 30% cheaper at all 5 of our city-run grocery stores.
Okay, Zohran Mamdani taking his new city-run grocery stores a step further. He promised yesterday that the city-run stores will bring down prices for its customers by implementing that 30% discount on basics like vegetables, meat, bread, and milk.
Mamdani says the discount, calculated monthly, will save New Yorkers about $90 per month. Not everyone thought it was a good idea, because it's not a good idea. Conservative podcast host Clay Travis wrote on X, this is completely insane, also not possible unless taxpayers are subsidizing all the groceries, because grocery store profits are tiny, a few percentage points a year at best.
The mayor's office says taxpayers would subsidize the discounts, but the stores would sell products outside of those basics at regular market prices. Okay, so what is wrong with produce, meat, and things being 20 other essential items that people actually need to just feed and nourish themselves being at a lower price, saving people up to $1,000 a year, $1,000 that people can then invest right back into their communities on other leisure things like buying the snacks at the bodega or investing in the local movie theater, all the things that would bring forth good things for the economy. There'll also be tons of union jobs now at these grocery stores that people can work in places like the Bronx.
I'm going to try
so what
to
is
use
the issue?
logic and reason.
I just gave you a bunch of logic and
stupid.
reason about why these work
start
well.
Here. Why not just make it free then? Why not offer the food for free?
Because the stores need to still operate and make a profit, and they're selling other things.
The government store. The government store doesn't need to make a profit.
Because we can't just go in the red. Obviously, he's a democratic socialist that works along with capitalism. Like I told you, the democratic socialists are.
Right.
Okay, it's a mixed economy. I just explained that to you, and this is my exact example. So thank you for proving my point that he doesn't just own it.
What are you talking about? The reason you can't just make it free, like someone has to pay for it. Right? Grocery stores are not hoarding some massive amounts of profits. They have very thin profit margins.
According to the conservative critic.
According to everyone.
Whole Foods has a pretty good margin.
Everyone knows this.
Whole Foods has a pretty good margin.
They're offering it at a price. The price is determined by the marketplace, by what they sell it for, what you'll buy it at, where they're still eking out some kind of profit. If a government grocery store is going to come in and sell that at less, that's fine. They're not going to make any profit, whatever, it's the government, but they need to, they're going to lose money. So in order to pay for the costs of providing the food, they just need to use more more tax dollars.
Yeah, I don't think she understands it. Quite frankly, someone has to pay for it, ladies and gentlemen. It's not really that hard to understand. It's subsidized by the taxpayer, which means the more successful the store becomes, the more it will cost the taxpayer. And this is not even new. This isn't new, ladies and gentlemen. We see this already with other social programs. And so, for example, he's talking about 30% discount on a particular set of items. Okay, let's just say the difference between a retail price and the discount, let's just say it becomes $2. That's the difference. A $2 gap between the retail price and what they're selling for in these government stores. Well, somebody got to pay that $2. The taxpayer is on the hook for that $2. And so the more successful the store becomes, they sell 100,000 subsidized goods. $2 times 100,000 subsidized goods. What is that? That's $200,000. But the store becomes more successful. They sell 1 million subsidized goods. That's $2 million the taxpayer is on the hook for. They sell 10 million subsidized goods. The taxpayer is now on the hook for $20 million. And so the more successful the store becomes, the more it will cost the taxpayer because it's subsidized through the taxpayer. And we know this already because we see this with things like SNAP. Before Trump cut it, SNAP kept on what? Increasing. The amount of people on it kept on just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And what does that mean? It costs the taxpayer more money. The more people on SNAP, the more it costs the taxpayer. And so at the core of it, this isn't anything new about who ends up paying for this. I mean, government school meal programs where the government pays for meals for, low income students. And they reimburse the school. I mean, the more kids on this program, the more the government has to reimburse, meaning the more taxpayer dollars that get dispersed. And so in order for this store to be successful, it is going to consistently and constantly require more taxpayer dollars. Without it, the bill is just going to keep on inflating and nobody going to pay it. That's not how it works. The vendors where you're getting these produce from, they still gonna want their money. Electricity, these are things that you can't just swallow the cost and eat. You don't got to pay property tax. Okay, they don't got to pay rent. They're gonna be able to get away with certain costs because the city's just gonna give them a pass. But other things, water, theft, spoiled foods, these are things that you're still going to be responsible for. But those are my thoughts in the update. I want to hear from you. Now drop your comments down below. I appreciate when you guys chime in. Don't forget, you enjoy the content, smash that thumbs up button. That's the best way to let me know. For more, subscribe to the channel. And as always, until next time.